Welcome back to We Need to Talk with Dr. Darcy Sterling, where I give you the tools and skills you need to love better so you can live better. What if the very people you're drawn to are the ones who are least capable of giving you what you need? We all have a type, a kind of person whose qualities feel instinctively right to us. Maybe it's the brooding artist type or the charismatic extrovert who makes you feel like you are the only person in the room. Or maybe it's someone who plays a little hard to get and they give you just enough to keep you chasing. What you need to know is that at some level, our type reminds us of home, even if home didn't always feel safe. Our nervous systems are drawn to things that are familiar, people who made us feel the way our family members once did. Because whether they did it well or not, the people who raised us, they taught us how to love. And the traits that they embodied or didn't embody, that is what we have come to associate with love. I was raised by a father who struggled with rage. When he exploded, my mom would say, "Honey, Daddy wouldn't get so angry with you if he didn't love you so much." So when I started dating, I was certain I didn't want someone with anger issues. But when my partner stayed calm during fights, something weird happened inside of me. I didn't feel loved. I didn't feel like they really cared. So I acted out, not consciously, not intentionally, but in ways that provoked them so that they would respond to me the way I was accustomed to being responded. I recreated the version of love that I knew. And I kept doing that across partners and across genders until I had done the work on myself to see how I was recreating the exact dynamic that I wanted to avoid. Some of the partners naturally had those traits and others I would provoke it in. Today, it's just you and me, no guest, just us having a heart-to-heart. We're unpacking how your type might be keeping you stuck and how to break the pattern without giving up on chemistry, desire, or passion. What does it mean actually to have a type, and how do you know if you have one? Having a type means there is a recognizable pattern in the kinds of people that you're attracted to, especially in the beginning. It's not about who likes you, it's about who lights you up. You might notice it in their personality. Maybe you're always drawn to emotionally unavailable people, or people who need rescuing, or people who dominate a room. Or maybe it's about how you feel around them, like how you have to earn their affection, or prove your worth, or manage their moods. One of the biggest clues that you have a type is repetition. If your past relationships look different on the outside, but they feel the same on the inside, same fights, same frustrations, same emotional roller coasters, you're probably not choosing them by accident. You are reenacting something. So if you ever said, "Why do I always end up with people who insert common complaint here?" That is a breadcrumb. That's your nervous system calling the shots. And that's what we're here to disrupt. Our type doesn't come out of nowhere. It's usually shaped by like two major things: childhood experiences and early relationship dynamics. And often those two things overlap. The first people we ever loved, our caregivers, they taught us what love feels like. Not always what love is, but what it feels like in the body. So if love felt inconsistent or conditional, or like you had to work for it, your nervous system might associate longing with love. And when you feel that familiar longing in adulthood, boom, you are hooked. It feels right because it feels familiar. Then adding your early romantic relationships. If your first love was thrilling but chaotic, your brain might have encoded that as passion. And now anything stable feels boring, not because it is, but because your wiring is tuned into excitement, also known as drama. The bottom line is, we don't choose our type consciously. Our bodies remember what relationships once felt like, and we unconsciously seek out people who recreate that feeling because it gives us a second chance to finally get it right, to be able to change how we handle those relationships as adults, because as kids, we had no power. We couldn't manage those adult relationships because there was a power imbalance. But as adults, when we recreate that same dynamic, now we're adults, we have agency, we have power, we have the ability to manage that and handle it differently. A lot of people ask, what's the danger in dating your type? If there's chemistry and passion, isn't that a good sign? Not always. In fact, intense chemistry is often one of the biggest red flags we ignore because it feels so damn good. Here's the thing, chemistry isn't a green light. It is not evidence of compatibility. It's evidence of familiarity. You have to hear that if you hear nothing else out of this conversation. And if what is familiar to you is a little chaotic, a little hot and cold, a little will they or won't they, then your chemistry might be pulling you towards something unhealthy. There's a difference between chemistry and connection. Chemistry is instant. It's primal. It's our nervous system saying, I know this feeling. But connection, that is co-created. It's mutual. It happens over time. It happens with safety and trust. The danger is that when we follow chemistry blindly, what we're really chasing is the excitement of chemistry. And sometimes what can feel like excitement is actually anxiety. And the reason we can easily mistake those two things is because anxiety is literally the flip side of the same coin of excitement. That's spiking your nervous system. That can be anxiety disguised as excitement. So yeah, passion matters, but sustainable relationships aren't built on sparks alone. The healthiest relationships are built on the backs of people who know how to express their needs in a way that their partner can understand, and their partners are open to hearing their needs and being flexible in how they meet them. Support for this episode comes from Mindful Care. The world is heavy right now. Politics, money, relationships, it's a lot. If you're feeling anxious, burnt out, or like you're white-knuckling your way through the day, you're not alone. Mindful Care offers same-day access to licensed clinicians, real help, personalized plans, most insurance accepted. And for my listeners, use code Dr. Darcy to unlock a free group therapy session because you don't have to figure it out all alone. Call 516-505-7200 or visit mindful.care today. Here's the truth. You can make it work with your type, but it comes with a huge caveat. That comes with an enormous disclaimer. In order to make it work with your type, you have to do the work to change how you show up in the relationship. Your type isn't necessarily the problem. The problem is who you become when you're with that type. How much of yourself you abandon, how much you tolerate, how reactive you get when you are triggered. Some of us don't need to abstain from our type. We just need to stop going unconscious when we're in that dynamic. That means learning how to notice the moment you start feeling very triggered. So, on a scale from 0 to 10, 0 is no discomfort whatsoever, 10 is the most discomfort you can imagine. When you start feeling like you're at a 6 or above, you are moving out of the part of your brain that allows you to think clearly, and you're moving into your amygdala, which is where your brain assesses for threats. Once you are there, you cannot contemplate the consequences of your actions. You're not in a logical part of your brain. So I never want you to be there. I want you to notice when you're getting triggered into discomfort, and then you need to pause, calm down, and only when you feel grounded again and capable of managing yourself, then I want you to handle the situation differently. And the way you'll handle it will change based on your own history. I don't want to oversimplify what I'm suggesting here. I'm saying that if you do enough work on yourself, you alone as an individual, you will gain control over how you show up in relationships, even when they stir up your childhood wounds. And that is a lot of work if you have a history of big issues in romantic relationships. What do I mean by big issues? Here are some examples. Like you have a history of high conflict in your relationships. If either you or your exes fought dirty, called each other names, character assassinated each other, or regularly threatened to break up, that's a sign. If one of you had a pattern of stonewalling during conflict, that's another sign. Stonewalling is when someone stops engaging during a conversation. They shut down, they go quiet, they look away, there's no eye contact. It's literally like you're talking to a brick wall, which is where the term comes from. And just to be clear, stonewalling is not taking space to calm down. It's what happens when you shut down to punish, avoid, or escape the discomfort of the moment. And what it results in is your partner feels like you're drowning them in silence, like you're imprisoning them. Now, I don't know if you picked up on the thread here, but what I'm describing is not a list of every possible issue that couples can have. The real problem is not the presence of conflict, it's how you've historically responded to conflict. That's what keeps relationships stuck. And if that's your pattern, then sure, it's going to take work to interrupt it, but it is possible. Now, here's the other side of it. You can change your type. Sometimes healing means expanding your definition of what and who you're attracted to. It means being open to someone who might feel boring at first, not because they actually are, but because your nervous system isn't being lit up like a pinball machine. You're not giving up on passion. You're learning to build it on a foundation of safety, not chaos. So no, you don't have to start dating people that you're not attracted to. But if every person you're drawn to leaves you anxious or unsure about whether the relationship is right, or constantly questioning where you stand in that relationship, that's not attraction. That's a nervous system reenactment, and it means it's time to start paying attention. So how do we start changing the pattern? Well, the first step in changing the pattern is identifying it, because you can't change a pattern that you can't see. And the thing about attraction patterns is they're fast. They live in your body. They show up as chemistry, urgency, excitement, maybe a skipped heartbeat. Unless or until you uncover your patterns, your nervous system will continue picking your partners for you. So I'll start with people who are already in relationships. So we start with getting clarity on what your patterns are. So how do you identify a pattern that's happening unconsciously? Yeah, I know it sounds like an oxymoron because it actually is one. And that is the problem. Most people can't do this. My clients can't do this alone, and they're pretty advanced. But it's okay because I'm going to link to a tool in the show notes that will literally walk you through a series of questions that ends with a list of your adult relationship patterns and how your childhood experiences created them. I'm going to blow your mind with this tool. This tool works. It is evidence-based. I adapted it from imago therapy, and I've been using it for years. So that's step one. Here's the second step. If you are already in a relationship, once you see the pattern, your job isn't to immediately decide whether you should stay or leave. It's to get curious about how the pattern is playing out between the two of you right now and how you might be unknowingly co-creating it. That might mean slowing down your reactions. Remember in the introduction, I said to you, I would pick these partners, my wife, for example, who is a very peaceful person. And when she would respond to me calmly, it did not feel good. It didn't feel good. It didn't feel right to me. I had to realize that I was escalating and becoming more and more provocative to elicit a response out of her that felt familiar to me. So when I say you have to slow down and realize how you may be co-creating the pattern, that's an example of how you may be co-creating the pattern. You have to identify when you are feeling triggered. Then you have to take space to calm down without shutting down. I'm not suggesting stonewalling. You tell your partner, this is how you don't stonewall. You let your partner know, look, I need a second to catch my breath. I'm going to the bathroom. I'll be out. You're not asking for consent. You're giving him an FYI. And then you share or you consider sharing what you're discovering with your partner, not as an accusation, but as a bridge. Something like, I'm realizing that when you go silent, I feel abandoned, and I think that's more about me than you. Can we talk about what happens when we fight? That is the work. It's not glamorous, it's not quick, but it's how real change happens. Because the goal here isn't just to avoid repeating the past. It's to show up differently in the present so that your current relationship doesn't have to pay for what someone else did to you. Now, if you're single and you're trying to change a pattern, slow down and pace yourself. People who have big issues in relationships tend to rush the dating process. Like, you meet someone, you click, and before you know it, you're super emotionally invested in someone you barely know. So put some space in there. You stretch out the getting to know you phase. You date consciously instead of habitually. Slowing down, what does it do? It gives you the time to get curious about whether or not your attraction is historical. In that space, you ask yourself different questions than the ones that you've asked yourself in the past. So instead of asking, how do I get them to like me? Or how do I get them to fall in love with me? Ask, how do I feel about myself when I'm with them? And how do I feel when I'm away from them? And how do I feel right before I'm about to see them? Those questions are very, very important for you to uncover. They're very important. If you decide that the chemistry that you're feeling is a nervous system response, meaning you're dating someone who is familiar, it's a familiar connection, you can still choose to keep dating, but you'll have made a mindful, conscious decision. When I think about it, it boils down to this as the takeaway. You don't need to shame yourself or judge yourself for having a type. You just need to get curious about what that type might be pulling you towards and why. This isn't about blaming your childhood or analyzing your entire dating history. That is overwhelming and it's unnecessary. What this is about is walking up to your patterns and waking up to your patterns. It's about seeing them. It's about noticing who your nervous system is drawn to and asking whether or not that attraction serves you. Because the truth is, you can have passion and peace, desire and emotional safety. You don't have to settle. You just have to get conscious. That's what this whole thing is about. Not picking the perfect partners, but learning how to love better so you can live better. We Need to Talk with Dr. Darcy Sterling is a Sterling Standard production. Editing and sound engineering is by Bart Migal. Our theme music is by Trendy Music. Special thanks to Amanda Christiani and Robin Genshin. If you like this episode, show a few friends some love and text it to them. We'll be back on Tuesday with another episode packed with the relationship, dating, and mental health hacks you've come to expect. References are always linked in the show notes. I'll see you soon.